Hey, Hammy here, back with part one of section 5.3 on reproduction and meiosis. How do organisms actually produce new organisms? Okay, not just cells, maybe within tissues and so forth. In this video, there are two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual reproduction. In this video, we want to take a look at different types of asexual reproduction. Okay, when we talk about reproduction, asexual versus sexual, asexual, okay, the prefix a means without sex. So there's only going to be a single parent, okay, that is going to give rise to genetically identical offspring. Okay, this happens in all prokaryotes, all bacteria, and also in some eukaryotes, which we'll see here in a second. There are three types of asexual reproduction that I want you to be familiar with. The first one is binary fission. Okay, again, binary or bi. Fission means to split into bi, split into two. Okay, a parent cell splits into two identical daughter cells of the same size. So down here you see a paramecium. It grows. You see it copies its nucleus here. So it has two sets. Okay, this is a eukaryote, but it is a single-celled creature, okay, a protist. And the cell enlarges, and then the cell just divides into two. Here would be kind of an example of what this would actually look like under the microscope. So you see this little cilia or these hairs here, and then you see right here that the cell is actually kind of pinching into two. Okay, so kind of similar to mitosis, but it's just the whole organism, that whole living thing is dividing into two. The second type of asexual reproduction is called fragmentation. Again, just like it sounds, fragments, when something splits into fragments. Parent cell splits into fragments, and then those fragments will actually grow into the new daughter cells or the new individuals. One of the classic examples is taking planarian or planaria. And you take a planarian, and with a really clean, sharp razor or scalpel, you can cut it into multiple pieces, and then those multiple pieces will actually grow. Those fragments will grow into new planaria. Same thing with the hydra, which is a little small, tiny, almost microscopic freshwater protist. Some starfish, can lose arms, and the new arm will actually grow. They have amazing regenerative abilities. Okay, people, some people in college like to see how many times they can sort of split that planaria and still have it grow into a whole new planaria. So that's fragmentation, being cut or divided into fragments and then just growing into two new individuals from those smaller pieces. The last type of asexual reproduction is called budding. Okay, when we think of a bud, you often think of like a plant, how you have new branches and new limbs bud in the spring when they start growing new branches. Okay, in budding, the offspring actually begins to grow or is attached to its parent, kind of like a bud on a plant while it grows. And then when it's mature enough, it breaks away. So again, down here is hydra, which also can do fragmentation, but they can also have these little growth buds, okay, that will begin to grow, and it will develop tentacles, and when it's big enough, it breaks away, and it's now an identical living thing, just like the parent was. We see this in hydra, freshwater hydra, and also some types of sponges, okay, that live in water, marine or freshwater, that can kind of do this budding where they bud off kind of these things. Jellyfish and some other things can do this type of asexual reproduction as well. Okay, finally, how is asexual different from sexual reproduction? Okay, A was without sex, obviously, so sexual reproduction, you're going to have two parents. Okay, you're going to have two parents, not always male, female. Sometimes, like in fungi, it's just a plus and negative strain. And when the plus and negative strains meet, they'll come together and form a zygote. Okay, in sexual reproduction, because you have two different parents, the offspring are going to be genetically unique, genetically different than each of their parents. So what the parents do is produce gametes, and that process is done through the process of meiosis. And in our next video, we're going to take a closer look of how exactly do they make gametes. Okay, this would be in humans, animals, this would be the sperm and the egg. And when they do that in meiosis, they take the chromosome number and divide it in half. Okay, that half number of chromosomes is called haploid. Okay, so if you look over here, this is a diploid individual. So these are showing only 3 chromosomes here. So this would be 2N. And actually, there's 6 chromosomes here. Sorry. Okay, one of these would be from your parents, your mother. The second one would be from your daughter, from your father, mother, father. There you go. Okay, so you got one of these, each of these homologous pairs from mom and dad. Okay, so what happens is when we go to form gametes, okay, they have similar genes on these homologous chromosomes, but maybe just different alleles, like brown hair or blonde hair. Okay, but it's a gene for hair color. Okay, so when we form gametes, we're going to divide these up so that you only have one set. Okay, not a pair, just one set. That's called haploid. Then when the sperm and the egg meet, you're going to form what's called a zygote. Okay, now this zygote, because you took a half and a half, okay, half from mother, half from father, half comes from you, half comes from the other individual. They're going to come back together in the zygote, and they're going to be back to diploid and a full set. So, for example, in humans, okay, you're going to start with 46 chromosomes, each parent. Okay, 46. Okay, and then each parent will form a gamete that's got 23. Okay, so if that's the father, let's say that's a bad 2. 23 from dad. And then the egg will also have 23 chromosomes. Okay, so guess what? When they join together to form the zygote, yeah, you guessed it, they're back to 46. So that chromosome number is maintained from generation to generation. Okay, but in sexual reproduction, remember, 2 parents and the offspring are genetically unique. They're different than their parents. In asexual reproduction, okay, the parent just budded or fragmented or split into 2, so they're genetically identical. So 2 big differences.